Well, anyone who has been watching my videos knows that I do like Colt firearms. I do like Colt revolvers. I do like Colt pistols. The Colt Trooper Mark III is something that I took a liking to here this last year. I've got a couple of those, as you'll see. And there's nothing more iconic than the Colt 45, the 1911. Designed by Mr. John Browning, but brought to us by Colt. They were the first ones to manufacture those. I have more Smith & Wesson firearms in the handgun category than I do from Colt, and a lot of that has to do with availability and things of that nature. But Colt's coming out with a new line of revolvers, and that's what we're here to talk about today, specifically why I'm going to hold off. Stay tuned. It's Dr. Drake 63 here again today. Going to talk a little bit today about the Colt King Cobra, the new version of it that is out now. It's a 3-inch barrel, no adjustable rear sight firearm that is from Colt. So it's definitely a nice looking handgun, this new King Cobra, without a doubt. Here's some specifications from the Colt website that you can take a look at. As you can see, I'm a fan. I've always liked Colt as a company from the standpoint of going back through their history. Look at the iconic firearms that Colt's been a part of, coming through the advent of single action revolvers all the way through today. You can't talk about the history of firearms in the United States without prominently featuring the firearms produced by Colt, starting with Sam Colt. Point is, guys, they've been around. Some of the most iconic firearms, such as the Colt 45 single-action Army, the Colt 1903 pocket carry, the Colt 1911, the Colt Police Positive, the Colt Detective, and moving into other areas such as military and police. Of course, the AR-15 and the M16 all originally were produced by Colt. And of course, we know about those snake guns. One of the iconic Colts that I have not owned is the Python. I have shot them. I think they're very, very nicely tuned firearms. The triggers are smooth as butter. But I have to be honest, a nice older Smith with non-mim parts that's been smoothed up is every bit as nice a trigger as a Colt Python. This is just one man's opinion. My model 29-2 that I recently picked up has as smooth a trigger as any revolver I've ever shot. So it all comes down to what's been done to it after. Some will say that the Smith & Wesson Performance Centers that come out today are triggers of that ilk, of that level of smoothness. I don't agree with that, but that's a video for another day. When looking at the Colt King Cobra, there's some things that I liked about it, but there was a lot more that I didn't like about it, and that's why this video today, spoiler alert, is about why I'm not getting the Colt King Cobra, the new version now. So if you tuned in hoping to see a bunch of close-up pictures of this firearm and me firing it, as I often do in my videos, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but if that's what you came here to see, you probably should go ahead and skip ahead right now. But I'm going to tell you today why it is I'm going to hold off on buying this firearm. Here it is in mid-February 2019. The Colt King Cobra was officially rolled out at the SHOT Show, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of reviews of this firearm that you can go see guys do hands-on shooting, so forth and so on. But let me tell you why I'm not interested in purchasing the Colt King Cobra right now. Number one, it's a 3-inch barrel. I am not a huge fan of the 3-inch barrel firearm. Recently you saw my review of the Smith & Wesson Performance Center K-Comp Carry, which is a 3-inch barrel, and just found that that isn't a really convenient size for me to carry. In other words, it doesn't do anything for me that a 4-inch won't in terms of size, at least for me. And I'd much rather have a full 4 inches of barrel and what that does for me ballistically. And that opens up so many more options for firearms, as well as options for holsters, things of that nature. Given a choice between that K-Comp Carry and just carrying something like a Smith & Wesson 4-inch barrel version of the 686, the 586, something like that, I'd prefer to do that. So I don't like a 3-inch barrel for that reason. Nothing against it. And for some people, it might be that ideal size for them for a carry firearm. So again, I'm not trying to make absolute statements here. I'm just telling you about my preferences. Number two, the firearm does not have an adjustable rear sight. So it's pretty much like firing some of the older Smith & Wesson Model 65s or some of the snub noses and things like that. Hey, if you're gonna carry it, great. Kind of makes sense in some ways to sleeken up the profile a little bit by not having a fixed rear sight. But again, it kind of goes back to, am I gonna carry it, or would I get this Colt King Cobra for purposes of just having a nice gun to shoot at the range and so forth, or maybe truck carry. Again, I like having those raised rear sights in that capacity, and because I know I wouldn't carry it, it just kind of loses its practicality for me. So again, not here today to tell you that I don't think it's a good gun. I'm just telling you why I'm not interested in getting it. Number three reason is I'm not a real big fan of that kind of bead blasted stainless finish. I much more prefer either a very smooth stainless finish that I can very easily put a shine on myself, or better yet, would love to have that in a blued finish. Now, again, it's a carry firearm. If you're comparing it to other carry firearms, including the Colt Night Cobra, it kind of makes sense to have a non-shiny, durable, almost a Duracoat, if you will, kind of finish, or bead blasted that isn't going to show a lot of wear. So I get that. But what all comes down to is the Colt King Cobra and the configuration that's coming out right now is a carry firearm. And I'm just not that interested in carrying the 3-inch barrel. For those guys out there that are going to say, hey man, it's Colt, I want to get a Colt, I can't afford the older ones, the Pythons, the old King Cobras, Anacondas, whatever the case may be. For those guys, I understand the need to want to kind of get the new gun. Believe me, I've done it before many a time, but in this particular case, it's got to fit a particular function for me. I don't want to buy a 3-inch non-adjustable rear sight 357 Magnum just for purposes of saying, hey, I got one. I already know how it's going to shoot. It's a 357 Magnum with a 3-inch barrel. It's not ported. So it's going to have a little bit of kick to it. I know the trigger is great. I've handled one. I can tell you right now, the trigger is very smooth. There's no question about it. If you compare that trigger to an out-of-the-box Smith & Wesson non-performance center trigger, there's no comparison, guys. It is a smoother trigger. Does that mean it's better? Well, again, depends on your application. I like to have the really smooth trigger for a target style firearm. But if I'm going to get a target style firearm, I'm probably not going to get a 3-inch barrel. So if you see where I'm coming from there, here's the main reason I'm not going to buy this firearm is because I believe there'll be more to come. And it's probably going to be dependent on the success of the sales of this particular revolver. Because let's face it, guys, we're in the year 2019. Polymer semi-auto loaders are king, followed by metal frame firearms, 1911s, CZs, things like that. When I talk to gun shop owners, they will tell me flat out it's at least 50 to 1, according to a number of them, or more is the ratio of semi-auto firearms that are sold to revolvers. So the market for revolvers just doesn't even touch the market for semi-auto loaders. So if you're Colt, how big an investment do you want to make? So imagine what they're going to do is they're going to kind of dip their toe. They're going to build excitement. They're going to introduce stuff slowly. They started with the Colt Cobra carry, you know, the snub nose 38. They've moved up now into a 357. Here's what I'm waiting for. Let's talk about a 4-inch or larger barrel. Let's talk about finishes available in something that's a nice blued. Now, I don't think we're going to see that royal blue finish we used to see on the Colt Pythons anymore, but I think it's obviously possible to do a nice hot bluing process. Smith & Wesson does a nice bluing process on their new Classic series, so it's certainly something that can be done. But I personally am going to wait until they go to that next level. Give me the adjustable sights, Colt. But I'm going to hold off on that Colt King Cobra. I like the idea of it. I think anybody expecting that Colt at some point is going to make a revolver that rivals the Python in terms of craftsmanship, in terms of hand fitting, in terms of real value, I think you're going to be waiting a long time. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. But that doesn't mean that they can't produce a darn fine revolver. Let's see what they do. For you guys that want to go out and shoot that 3-inch, do it. I want to hear about it. And looking forward to seeing where Colt goes as we move along. Because as I said at the beginning of this video, very interested in Colt. I love following the company. They've produced some darn nice, iconic firearms, and I certainly hope they'll keep doing it. I would love nothing better than to see a line of revolvers from Colt that even just touches what's available from Smith & Wesson. I mean, it would take a heck of a catalog to touch everything that Smith & Wesson does, but let's just see where they can go with this. I'm DR Drake 63. I appreciate you watching today, and we'll see you on down the road. Have a great day.